There are moments in life when the weight on your chest becomes impossible to hide. You try to stay strong, keep moving, breathe a little deeper, pretend everything is fine, but inside, something is breaking. And right at that breaking point, there's a whisper that rises from the soul, a whisper that says, "Lord, I ask for your forgiveness and your intercession over my life." If this title pulled your attention, it's because something inside you is craving a fresh start, a clean page, a moment where God steps in and lifts what you can't hold anymore. Stay here with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just another devotional. It's a conversation your heart has been waiting for, a moment where we slow down, look at the truth inside us, and allow God to reach the places we've been avoiding. I want you to feel seen today. I want you to feel understood. And above all, I want you to feel held by the one who never fails. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you for something simple but powerful. If this message already speaks to you, subscribe to this channel so you don't walk this journey alone. And share your name in the comments, not just to engage, but so I can lift your name in prayer. There's something sacred about hearing your name spoken before God. Let this be the beginning of something real and transformative for you. May the Lord touch your mind as you listen, steady your heart, and open your spirit to what He wants to restore. Now breathe. Let's step into the presence that has been waiting for you. Lord, I come before you with a heart that is both tired and hopeful. I come carrying the weight of everything I tried to deal with on my own, the mistakes I made, the silence I kept, the emotions I swallowed, and the prayers I whispered when no one was around. I bring all of it to you because I finally understand that nothing changes until I surrender. Nothing heals until I allow your hands to touch the places I've been hiding. And nothing moves until your breath fills the spaces where I've been stuck. I ask for your forgiveness, not because I think I deserve it, but because I know you are merciful. I know you see the layers beneath my actions, the intentions I had, the moments I was weak, and the battles I never spoke about. You know every thought that weighed me down, every fear that pushed me into choices I regret, every wound that shaped my reactions, and every night I cried quietly so no one would worry. You know me better than I admit to myself. And still, you call me closer. Forgive me for the times I tried to build my life without you. Forgive me for the moments I acted out of desperation instead of faith. Forgive me for the words I said that hurt others, the silence I kept when I needed to speak, the anger I held, the pride I fed, and the habits I allowed to take root in me. Forgive the ways I delayed my own healing because I was afraid to confront the truth. Forgive the times I ignored your voice because it was easier to follow my distractions. Lord, forgive every fragment of me that wandered away, even when my heart still believed in you. And as you forgive me, I ask for something only you can give. Your intercession over my life. Step into the areas where I am too fragile, too tired, too overwhelmed, or too confused to understand what happens next. Intercede for me in the battles I don't even recognize yet. Intercede for me in the invisible wars happening inside my mind, where doubt tries to drown what little hope I have left. Intercede for me in my relationships, my decisions, my fears, and my future. I need you to step into the places where I no longer have the strength to step alone. Lord, I ask you to intercede over my heart. Heal what has been bleeding internally. Mend the pieces that broke quietly, pieces I never showed anyone because I didn't want to appear weak. I ask you to fill the empty spaces where disappointment settled. Touch the roots of rejection, abandonment, and insecurity that formed part of my identity without my permission. Speak into the memories that still hurt. Restore the faith that life has tried to drain from me. Remind me that I am not defined by my failures, but by your love. Intercede over my mind, Lord. Silence the voices that don't come from you. Break the cycles of anxiety that keep me awake at night. Lift the fear that makes me imagine the worst before I even begin. Untangle the thoughts that keep me stuck, the overthinking that leaves me exhausted, and the confusion that steals my clarity. I ask you to place your peace where my chaos has been living. Clear the fog inside me and give me wisdom to walk with confidence, not intimidation. Intercede over my decisions. Guide my steps so I don't walk into what you never intended for me. Close the doors that lead to destruction and open the ones that align with your plans. Reveal opportunities that lift my spirit instead of draining it. Remove people who dim my faith and surround me with those who help me grow. Give me the courage to say no when something isn't aligned with your purpose, and the trust to say yes when you call me into something new. Intercede over my future. I place every unknown moment in your hands. I surrender the timeline I created for myself, the expectations, the deadlines, the pressure, the fear of being too late or not enough. Teach me that you are never delayed in your promises. Teach me that what is meant for me will not pass me. Teach me to trust you with the chapters I can't see. I lay my future before you because without you, I lose myself in the uncertainties. Lord, I ask you to enter the rooms of my soul where I pushed everything I didn't know how to handle. Shine your light into the corners I didn't want to face. Cleanse what became toxic inside me. Break the emotional patterns that repeat themselves. Lift from me the burdens that I carried so long, I started calling them normal. Show me what to release, what to embrace, what to heal, and what to rebuild. Intercede over the promises you made to me. Strengthen my faith so I can wait without fear. Remind me that what you begin, you complete. Remind me that your silence is not absence. Remind me that every delay carries protection. Remind me that every closed door leads me away from danger. Remind me that you're working even when my eyes can't see it. Lord, cleanse my spirit from anything that tries to distance me from you. Remove guilt that no longer belongs to me. Remove shame that you already erased. Remove bitterness that has taken up space in my heart. Remove the heaviness that I got used to carrying. Teach me to let go of what hurts, even when letting go feels like losing a part of myself. I trust that you never take something without giving restoration in return. I ask you to intercede over the moments when I feel unworthy of your love. Surround me with the truth of who I am in you. Remind me that you chose me before I even knew myself. Remind me that nothing I confess scares you. Remind me that you're not disappointed in me. Remind me that your grace is bigger than my mistakes, and that your mercy renews me every morning. Remind me that I am loved without conditions, without limitations, without expiration. Lord, bring peace to the places where chaos has lived too long. Bring clarity to decisions that feel heavy. Bring strength to the parts of me that feel fragile. Bring hope to the areas that feel abandoned. Bring light to the future I sometimes fear. Bring healing to emotions I buried so deeply I forgot they were still alive. I surrender my heart, my mind, my wounds, my fears, my hopes, and my future. Let your intercession lead me where my own strength cannot. Let your forgiveness cleanse me where I cannot fix myself. Let your presence remind me that I am never walking alone, even when I feel lost. And let your love rebuild every damaged piece of me with purpose and grace. Lord, I ask for your forgiveness. I ask for your intercession. And above all, I ask that you stay with me every step of the way. Speak to me in the small moments, guide me in the uncertain ones, and hold me in the painful ones. Let this be the moment where everything begins to shift, even if I don't see it yet. I trust you, Lord. I surrender to you, and I open my life to whatever you want to heal, restore, or transform. Understanding the weight of asking for forgiveness. There's a moment in every person's life when pretending doesn't work anymore. You can't outrun your thoughts, you can't distract your way out of the guilt, and you can't silence the truth rising from inside you. Asking God for forgiveness is not just a spiritual act. It's a moment of honesty, the kind that cracks something open inside you. It's that internal shift where you stop performing strength and start acknowledging the fracture. And even though it feels heavy, there's something strangely hopeful about it. Because the moment you ask for forgiveness is the moment you admit you want to come back to the light. People often think forgiveness is just about fixing what you broke, as if it's only a response to your mistakes. But forgiveness is much deeper than that. It's about facing who you became while trying to survive. It's about looking at the version of yourself shaped by disappointment, hurt, fear, or impulsive choices, and saying, I see the damage and I want better. It's not weakness. It's not shame. It's awakening. And awakening always requires courage. When you say, Lord, I ask for your forgiveness, you're not begging for something he is reluctant to give. You're stepping into a truth he's been waiting for you to accept. God doesn't withhold forgiveness like a parent punishing a child. His forgiveness is the door that has always been open, but we often choose to stand outside because stepping in means acknowledging that we can't save ourselves, and that's hard. Admitting you need help feels like failure in a world that worships independence. But in the kingdom, surrender isn't failure, it's freedom. Forgiveness also dismantles the illusions we build to protect ourselves. You know those layers you put on, the excuses, the denial, the emotional armor, the narrative you created to justify your choices? Asking for forgiveness strips them away. It leaves you exposed but finally honest, and there's something cleansing about that kind of honesty. It feels like dropping a weight you've been carrying so long you forgot it wasn't part of your body. Sometimes the hardest part is forgiving yourself. You ask for God's mercy, but you secretly think you don't deserve it. You keep replaying the past like a movie you can't turn off, hoping it will hurt less the next time. You punish yourself long after God already extended grace. And that's why asking for forgiveness is more than a prayer. It's a realignment. It's you stepping back into the truth that God's love doesn't shift based on your performance. His forgiveness isn't delayed by your self-doubt. He gives it fully the moment you ask, even when you're still learning to believe it. There's a reason your heart feels heavy before you pray for forgiveness. The weight you feel is the tension between who you are now and who you're meant to become. It's the internal pull of the Spirit calling you back to clarity. You can't stay comfortable in behaviors or thoughts that no longer match your spiritual identity. That discomfort is not punishment. It's the first sign that God is preparing a deeper healing. The weight is a signal. The prayer is the doorway. The forgiveness is the release. And once you receive it, something shifts. Sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, but always meaningfully. The guilt begins to loosen, the shame starts to crumble, and your heart becomes open again. Forgiveness makes space. Space for peace, space for clarity, space for God's voice to reach you without being blocked by the noise of regret. It's not instant transformation, but it's the beginning of transformation. It's the choice that allows God to rewrite what the enemy tried to mark as permanent. Understanding forgiveness means understanding that your past loses its authority the moment grace enters the conversation. It means realizing that your future is not defined by the thing you're asking forgiveness for, but by the humility and sincerity with which you bring it before God. The weight you carry doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It disappears because you place it in the hands of the only one strong enough to hold it without crushing you. So if you feel the heaviness right now, if the guilt is tight in your chest or the regret sits quietly behind your thoughts, don't run from it. Lean in. This is the moment when God begins to lift what you were never meant to carry alone. Asking for forgiveness isn't the end of your journey. It's the moment the journey finally becomes real. Why we need God's intercession. When our own strength isn't enough, there comes a point in every journey where your effort stops being enough. You push, you try, you analyze, you overthink, you plan, you correct, you rewind, and you replay. Yet nothing seems to shift. It's like standing in front of a locked door with every key except the right one, and no matter how much strength you use, the door doesn't move. That's when you realize something hard but liberating. This isn't a door you open by yourself. This is a door only God can move. Asking for God's intercession is acknowledging that you've reached the edge of your own ability. It's not defeat, it's clarity. It's seeing the limit of your strength and recognizing the beginning of His. People often think needing God means failure, as if coming to Him is the last resort. But in reality, His intercession is meant to be the foundation, not the emergency backup. Still, most of us only discover this truth after being exhausted by battles we weren't meant to fight alone. God's intercession becomes necessary when the internal war becomes louder than the world around you, when your mind spins in circles, when your emotions feel like they have their own gravity, when your choices seem to backfire no matter how carefully you make them. You reach points in life where logic fails to explain why things feel stuck. You feel blocked in ways you can't articulate. That's where divine intervention begins, right at the point where human logic loses traction. There are areas inside you that only God can reach, wounds that go deeper than your conscious thoughts, patterns that hide beneath layers of survival, agreements you made with fear without even noticing, places inside you where only the Spirit can enter, because if you tried to face them alone, the weight would break you. God's intercession isn't just spiritual, it's protective. It covers the parts of you that are too fragile to confront without grace. Think about how often you've tried to fix yourself. You told yourself to be stronger, to stop feeling what you feel, to let go of things you haven't processed, to move on when your heart is still bleeding. You tried to discipline your way out of emotional wounds. You tried to numb your way out of things that required healing. You tried to plan your way out of fears that needed surrender, not strategy. You tried to control what God was trying to transform. And control can't birth transformation, only surrender can. This is why intercession matters. It's God stepping into the areas where you keep losing battles. It's Him standing between you and the thing that keeps draining you. It's Him speaking truth where lies have lived too long. It's Him breaking cycles you normalized because they've been part of you for years. It's Him covering you when you don't even realize how vulnerable you are. His intercession is the shield you didn't know you needed and the strength you didn't know you lacked. There are moments when your prayers feel small, but God's response is vast. Times when you whisper a request and He begins shifting things behind the scenes. Times when a door closes painfully, but it was His intercession protecting you from what you couldn't see. Times when He delays an answer, not because He's ignoring you, but because the timing wasn't safe yet. Intercession often feels like confusion at first and clarity afterward. You only understand it when you look back and realize that what hurt you was also what saved you. Intercession is also God's way of reminding you that you were never designed to navigate life alone. Human strength breaks under pressure. Human wisdom has limits. Human emotions fluctuate. But God's presence remains constant. And when you ask for His intercession, you're placing your life under a covering that doesn't fail, doesn't fatigue, and doesn't forget. The truth is, some breakthroughs only come when God Himself steps into the situation. Not because you're weak, not because you're unworthy, but because certain battles require a power greater than anything you can summon. When your strength ends, His begins. When your clarity fades, His vision guides you. When your heart trembles, His hand steadies you. So when you ask for His intercession, you're not asking for a miracle out of desperation. You're aligning yourself with the order of heaven. You're acknowledging that you don't want to walk in your own strength anymore. You want to walk in His. You want His wisdom above your assumptions, His timing above your anxiety, His direction above your impulses, His protection above your attempts at control. That's why intercession is not a moment, it's a shift. It's when your life moves from self-reliance to divine dependence, when you stop forcing outcomes and start trusting presence, when you stop grasping and start surrendering, when you stop carrying everything and allow God to carry what was never meant for your shoulders. The silent battles that make us seek God's forgiveness and intercession. There's a reason the hardest battles you fight are the ones no one sees. The loud conflicts, the visible struggles, the situations people around you recognize, those are easy to explain. They come with context, validation, understanding. But the silent battles, the ones that sit deep inside your chest, those are different. Those are the battles that shape your prayers. Those are the battles that make you whisper, "Lord, forgive me. Lord, intercede for me." Because they expose the truth you try so hard to hide. Silent battles are the ones you carry quietly in your thoughts, the private anxieties you can't articulate, the fears that feel irrational but pull your decisions in directions you don't want to go. They're the wounds that never got the closure they needed. The memories you don't revisit because you're afraid they still have power over you. They're the emotional reactions you can't predict, the habits you can't break, the guilt you still feel for things you rarely speak aloud. They're the subtle behaviors you justify when deep down you know they're symptoms of deeper pain. These internal struggles don't announce themselves. They show up in your tone, your silence, your distance, your overthinking, your exhaustion. They show up in the way you push people away without knowing why, or the way you cling too tightly because you're afraid of being left again. They show up when you replay old conversations, punish yourself for past decisions, or shut down because vulnerability feels dangerous. These battles are exhausting, not because they're dramatic, but because they're constant. They drain you quietly, slowly, invisibly. And the most complicated part? Many of your silent battles were formed long before you realized they were shaping you. You learned to survive things you never had the tools to process. You internalized patterns from environments that didn't nurture your emotional or spiritual growth. You adopted responses that protected you once, but hurt you now. And because all this happened internally, you assumed it was normal. But the spirit inside you knows the difference between survival patterns and healed identity. That's why there's tension. That's why there's restlessness. That's why your soul keeps pulling you toward God. Asking for forgiveness often comes from recognizing how these silent battles influenced your actions. Maybe you weren't trying to hurt anyone. You were reacting from places you didn't understand. Maybe you weren't trying to push God away. You were trying to protect yourself from disappointment. Maybe you weren't trying to make destructive choices. You just didn't know another way to cope. Silent battles distort your perception of yourself. They make you forget who you are in God. They make you feel distant from the person you want to become. And intercession becomes necessary because these battles are too complex to fight alone. You're not just dealing with surface-level emotions. You're dealing with roots, deep roots. Roots connected to old moments, old fears, old lies, old identities. You can't pull out these roots with willpower alone. You need God's hand, God's insight, God's timing. You need Him to show you what's connected to what. You need Him to guide you through healing in the correct order because healing isn't chaos, it's divine sequence. Silent battles require divine intervention because they affect how you think, how you love, how you react, and how you trust. They shape your relationships, your faith, and your sense of self. You can't heal something you refuse to look at. But you also can't look at something that hurts you without the presence of the one who can hold you through it. That's why God steps in. That's why you feel the pull to pray even when you don't know what to say. That's why the heaviness intensifies before breakthrough arrives. These battles push you toward forgiveness because forgiveness frees you from the emotional exhaustion of carrying what wasn't meant for you. And they push you toward intercession because intercession covers what you can't articulate. God knows the battles you fight silently. He sees the tears you hold back. He sees the weight behind your sighs. He sees the thoughts you entertain but never confess. He sees the patterns you hate but feel trapped in. And He steps into these internal spaces long before you even ask. Silent battles are the reason your soul aches for God. They're the reason you crave His presence more in the quiet moments than the loud ones. And they're the reason the prayer for forgiveness and intercession hits so deeply. You're not just praying about your actions. You're praying about your inner world. You're asking God to reach the parts of you no one else knows exist. This is where transformation begins, not in the visible victories, but in the quiet surrender of what you've carried alone for years. This is where God starts rewriting the narrative that shaped you in ways you didn't choose. This is where your healing begins, not with noise, but with honesty, not with perfection, but with surrender, not with strength, but with truth. How God's forgiveness reshapes your identity. From the inside out, there's something profound that happens when God forgives you, something far deeper than simply wiping away guilt or erasing a mistake. Forgiveness from God reshapes you. It redirects you. It challenges the beliefs you formed about yourself during the hardest seasons of your life. And little by little, it rebuilds your identity. not the version shaped by fear, regret, or insecurity, but the version shaped by truth, grace, and purpose. Forgiveness isn't just spiritual cleansing, it's reconstruction. Most people underestimate the impact of forgiveness because they think it's only about the wrong they committed. But God sees far beyond behavior. He sees the internal structures holding those behaviors in place. He sees the lies you believed about yourself. He sees the voices that convinced you weren't enough. He sees the emotional injuries that molded your reactions. He sees the generational patterns you inherited without realizing it. Forgiveness doesn't just deal with the surface issue. It deals with everything under it. It's a total renovation of the soul. When God forgives you, He breaks the connection between your identity and your past. Your mistakes stop being your definition. Your failures stop being your label. Your regrets stop being your identity marker. Forgiveness separates who you were from who He created you to be. It lifts the weight of shame off your shoulders, not because you magically deserve grace, but because God decides to restore what darkness tried to distort. He restores dignity where shame once lived. He restores clarity where confusion once ruled. He restores tenderness where hardness took root. Forgiveness also challenges the narratives you've been repeating internally. There are words you've said to yourself out of hurt, disappointment, or exhaustion. Words that became ingrained. I ruin things. I'm not worth much. I should have known better. I can't change. It's too late for me. You repeat these thoughts so often they become your truth. But when you experience God's forgiveness, these narratives lose authority. Grace interrupts them. Grace exposes them. Grace replaces them. God's voice becomes louder than the voice of your past. This reshaping process also affects how you relate to people. When your identity is wounded, you either push others away or cling too tightly. You become guarded, reactive, defensive, or overly accommodating. You make decisions based on fear rather than discernment. But forgiveness brings internal stability. It grounds you. It opens you. It softens what life hardened. It teaches you to respond rather than react, to see others through compassion rather than through old wounds, to set boundaries without guilt, and to love without losing yourself. One of the most powerful effects of God's forgiveness is how it lifts the spiritual weight you never fully acknowledged. Guilt drains energy. Shame steals vision. Regret steals boldness. But forgiveness restores the spiritual vitality that gets buried under these burdens. You begin to see possibilities again. You begin to dream again. You begin to trust God with confidence instead of fear. You begin to walk with a lighter step because you're no longer dragging the chains you kept hidden inside your mind. Forgiveness also reorients your future. Without it, you're always trying to outrun your past. You're always trying to compensate, overcorrect, or prove something. But when God forgives you, the pressure breaks. You stop trying to earn worthiness. You stop trying to engineer your value. You stop trying to rewrite your own destiny through performance. Instead, you walk into the future with a freedom that comes from knowing you're not defined by what was broken, but by the one who heals. This reshaping isn't instant. God doesn't rush your transformation. He doesn't pressure you into perfection. He guides you gently, steadily, intentionally. Forgiveness becomes the starting point of a deeper journey, one where you rediscover who you are in His eyes. And He reveals it piece by piece, layer by layer, moment by moment. Sometimes through stillness, sometimes through conviction, sometimes through unexpected clarity, but always through love. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: God's forgiveness invites you into partnership with Him. He doesn't just restore you, He walks with you as you learn to live in that restored identity. He teaches you to recognize harmful patterns before they return. He strengthens you when old habits try to resurface. He protects the newness He places inside you. And He gives you courage to step into the version of yourself that fear tried to deny. The identity God shapes in you is one rooted in truth, steadiness, and purpose. It's not fragile like the identity shaped by external validation. It's not deceptive like the identity shaped by wounds. It's not temporary like the identity shaped by circumstance. It's anchored, it's intentional, it's resilient. And once forgiveness reshapes the core of who you are, you see life differently. You show up differently. You pray differently. You believe differently. Forgiveness is not a moment you receive. It's a transformation you live. Walking forward. After forgiveness. How intercession becomes your new foundation. When God forgives you, something powerful happens internally. But the real transformation begins when you learn to walk forward with that forgiveness as your foundation. Many people receive forgiveness, but stay emotionally stuck in the same place. They carry grace in their hearts, yet continue living as if they are still bound to who they used to be. That's why intercession matters so much. Forgiveness cleanses your past, but intercession directs your future. It becomes the steadying force that guides your steps when you're still learning how to stand in your restored identity. Moving forward after forgiveness requires unlearning the rhythms that shaped you when you were hurting. When you lived in survival mode, you made decisions quickly, defensively, and reactively. When guilt lived inside you, every step felt heavy, uncertain, or distorted by shame. But now, forgiven and covered by God's intercession, your movements need to change. You can't walk like someone chained to regret. You walk like someone who has been freed. Slowly at first, but steadily, intentionally, and with growing confidence. Intercession becomes the guiding presence that teaches you how to live differently. It's the awareness that you're not navigating life alone. It's the quiet assurance that your decisions are no longer based solely on your emotions, but on God's direction. And it's the internal shift where you stop trying to carry everything and allow God to walk alongside you in every part of your journey. Intercession isn't passive, it's a partnership. God goes ahead of you, behind you, and beside you, setting the pace and shaping your perspective. Walking forward also means recognizing the moments when old patterns try to pull you back. Forgiveness doesn't erase triggers. It doesn't remove memories. It doesn't suddenly silence every fear. What it does is give you the spiritual clarity to notice when something is pulling you toward a version of yourself that no longer exists. And instead of falling into those patterns unconsciously, you begin to pause, breathe, and ask God for guidance. This pause is where intercession becomes active. It's where God steps into your awareness and lifts you out of the spiral before it consumes you. This walking forward process also teaches you to trust God with decisions you used to overthink. Instead of obsessively analyzing every outcome, you begin to make choices from a place of peace. Instead of expecting failure because that's what you're used to, you begin to expect God's presence because that's what you now walk in. Intercession changes your internal compass. It shifts you from self-reliance to divine dependence. It teaches you to seek alignment rather than control. And slowly, your life starts to reflect that shift. There's also a deep emotional healing that happens when you walk forward with intercession. God begins touching wounds you didn't know still influenced you. He brings stillness to memories you used to avoid. He gives you new language for your pain, language that doesn't come from fear, but from revelation. And as you walk, you begin to see how forgiveness wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of restoration. Intercession ensures that restoration continues, even on the days you don't feel strong. Walking forward after forgiveness also means learning to receive what God wants to give you. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't letting go of the past. It's believing you're worthy of something better. You might find yourself hesitating when opportunities appear because you're still adjusting to the idea that goodness is allowed to reach you now. But intercession steadies your heart. It reminds you that when God opens a door, it's safe to walk through. It teaches you courage without fear, hope without denial, trust without self-sabotage. Intercession also creates spiritual sensitivity. You begin sensing God's direction in places you previously overlooked, in conversations, in quiet moments, in unexpected insights, in internal nudges that redirect your decisions. You stop living on autopilot. You start living with intention. Forgiveness removes the fog. Intercession reveals the path. Together, they create clarity so you can move forward with spiritual maturity, not emotional confusion. The foundation God builds under you through intercession becomes unshakable over time. You stop being thrown around by every hardship. You stop collapsing under emotional pressure. You stop internalizing the worst-case scenarios. Instead, you develop resilience rooted in God's constancy. Your faith becomes less about feelings and more about grounded trust. Your future becomes less about fear and more about alignment. Your identity becomes less about damage and more about destiny. Walking forward after forgiveness is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about walking differently because you know God walks with you. It's about building habits that match your healed identity. It's about choosing peace over panic, surrender over control, clarity over confusion, and grace over guilt. Forgiveness healed you. Intercession guides you. Together, they transform the way you live, love, think, and choose. This is where your life begins to look like the person God always saw in you. Not the broken version, not the defeated version, but the redeemed one. There comes a moment right after the last word of a prayer settles in your heart, when everything around you feels quiet. Not empty, quiet. A different kind of quiet. The kind that touches your spirit instead of your ears. The kind that makes you realize something shifted inside you, even if you can't fully explain it yet. That's the quiet we've arrived at now. Not the quiet of doubt, not the quiet of heaviness, but the quiet that follows surrender. The quiet where God begins to work. This entire journey, asking for forgiveness, seeking intercession, facing the silent battles, letting God reshape your identity. It wasn't just words. It was you opening a door inside yourself that had been closed for far too long. And now, in this moment, you stand on new ground. Not perfect ground, not easy ground, but holy ground. Ground where healing can finally begin to grow roots. Ground where your past no longer has authority over your future. Ground where God's presence becomes the center of your decisions, not the last resort after everything falls apart. Walking away from this devotional doesn't mean your struggles disappear instantly. It means you're no longer walking through them alone. It means something inside you has awakened. It means you understand that forgiveness is not a bandage, it's a beginning, and intercession isn't a desperate plea. It's the divine covering that shapes your next steps. Every breath you take after this moment becomes part of a new chapter, one written with clarity instead of confusion, purpose instead of panic, and faith instead of fear. Maybe you still feel a weight in your chest. That's okay. Healing doesn't rush, transformation doesn't sprint. You're stepping into a process, and God honors every small step you take. What matters is that you've opened your heart. You've asked for what only He can give, and you've allowed Him into places inside you that once felt unreachable. That alone changes everything. Let this closing be your reminder. God heard you, not vaguely, not distantly, not halfway, fully, completely, intimately. He heard the words you spoke and the ones you couldn't. He saw the emotions behind your silence. He understood the memories behind your pain, and He stepped into your situation the moment you invited Him. The forgiveness you asked for has already been given. The intercession you requested is already in motion. The healing you long for is already unfolding, even if it's quiet. As you move through today, walk with awareness. Pay attention to the subtle shifts, peace where anxiety usually sits, clarity where confusion used to dominate, strength rising where you typically collapse. These are signs of God's presence. These are the marks of someone who is covered, forgiven, and guided. You're not who you were when you pressed play on this video. Something inside you has begun to breathe differently. And tomorrow, when you come back for the next devotional, because I truly hope you do, you'll notice that each day adds another layer of healing, another thread of clarity, another moment of transformation. God works in sequences, not chaos. He builds you gradually, intentionally, beautifully. So breathe one more time. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension soften. Let your heart feel held, because you're forgiven, you're covered, you're guided, and you're not walking into the next chapter alone. What God started in you today, He will carry to completion.